Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Matt McWilliams. He is the affiliate machine, the affiliate master. He is living proof that one can pursue one's passion in life and do so while making a profit. Matt has worked with Kevin Harrington, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, etc. And he is here to help you on your quest to turn your passion and your message into a profitable and growing business. So, Matt, how the heck do we do that?
Oh, Robert, thanks for having me, buddy. Well, I mean, it starts with, step one, which is getting clear on your passion. The entire premise of the book that I wrote, Turn Your Passions into Profit, hinges on one belief, Robert, and that's the world needs your message. The world needs your message, but it's not going to wait for it, right? We need your message, but we're going to move on without it. We're going to find our solution from somebody else. So why not you? Why not me, right? Why not be the one the world, whoever it is, whoever my audience is going to get the solution from? And, there are potentially millions of people out there right now who are desperately waiting for you to step up and share your message with them. But it starts with that clarity, that clarity on, okay, what is your passion? What is your actual passion? What is your unique ability? Who are the people you serve? Who are they? And so I walk through in the book, I walk through 3 steps to get clear on your passion. This process is when we've helped, now up to over 10,000 people who came to me with the same question, like, dude, I'm kind of passionate about this, been sort of passionate about this, and I think I might be really passionate about this. What do I do? What's the thing that's going to, be able to build a profitable business? Because the reason we want to go to the other side of this equation and build the profitable business is that's what's going to allow us to keep doing it for the long term. That's what's going to sustain us so we don't burn out because we just have, instead of a business, we just have an expensive hobby that we love doing. So I walk people through 3 questions. And the first one is, what is it that people are always asking you for help with? Like, you're the guy that they come to, they ask you for help with this thing. One of the examples in the book is my friend, Jonathan Milligan, and he had a blog that was all about career, stuff like how to write resumes and how to do interviews and get hired for your dream job. And then he noticed like people kept coming to him saying, Jonathan, you built this blog. Like, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? After getting asked that question 100 times, he's like, maybe I can make a business out of that. And he found out that he really loved it. The second question is like, what do people always say is really interesting about you? I don't know if you're familiar, Robert. Are you familiar with the podcast Hardcore History by chance?
No.
Okay. Hardcore History, just to give you some perspective, it's a history podcast. When he releases a new episode, Dan Carlin's the host. When he releases a new episode, it is the #1 podcast on every platform for like 3 days. I mean, not like in its category, but on the entire internet. It is like he's beaten the prince and the princess, whoever, I don't even know their names. I don't keep up with that crap, but he's beating everyone on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify. He's not a historian though, but he hosts a history podcast. And the reason is because he would go to Thanksgiving dinner. He was that guy that somehow something would come up and he would, next thing you know, he's talking about how World War I started and the real story behind the atomic bomb. And he's telling these fascinating historical accounts. And everybody's like, damn, that's really interesting. Maybe you should do something with that. And if you haven't figured out your passion by then, there's a third question, which is what did you struggle with, but now you enjoy success at? And we all have a friend like this, my friend Alan Thomas, who I write about in the book. It's the longest story in there. It's almost 4 pages long because it's such a powerful story of a guy who woke up at almost the age of 60, got on the scale, realized he was over 300 pounds. And he said, Matt, I've been obese, overweight my entire life, 50 plus years. I've been the fat kid, and then I was the fat teenager, and then I was the overweight adult. And he said, 9 months after I stepped on that scale at 304, I weighed 175. All he does today, because he has a passion for this, he runs a very profitable business, a very impactful business, helping people with exactly what he did because they can relate to someone who struggled with the same thing they're struggling with. And so that's the starting point, Robert.
Amazing. This is some profound stuff we're talking about, that there are these people out there that have this passion, this hobby, these things that they do, these things that either come naturally to them, or as you said, maybe they struggle with, maybe they've overcome things. And it's time to maybe refine and shape some of the raw material into a business, into something that can make money and can grow and can reach and help more people as this scalable business, versus if it was just you one-to-one kind of chit-chatting with the people that you happen to come across. So we need to be kind of expanding this idea, and time is of the essence, as you said at the beginning, because the world will not wait around for you. It would be nice. It would be nice to think that it's your destiny and it's meant to happen, but you also have to, do your own side of that effort. And so what are people not doing enough as far as turning this passion into a business? Because there's always the talk about procrastination, or how it's easy to plan or be stuck in your bubble and not get out and network like you do here with the podcasting, like how you at this very moment, or how you do the affiliate program stuff. So what is the missing ingredient, or what is just the thing that people skip over that they need to not be skipping over?
I think it's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Yes.
I think there's a piece, and it's one of those things that I'll share this story. It's one of those stories that I wish I had moved earlier in the book, because I didn't realize until after I had written it how foundational this story was to people getting in the right mindset. Step one, like I said, is all about getting clear on your passion. Step two is committing to leading. Step three is capturing attention. Step four is converting visitors into subscribers. And then we want to build community and become a champion for their cause. But it starts with the belief that this thing that we are uniquely qualified to do actually matters, and that we're even qualified to do it. And I found that one of the biggest things that holds people back, Robert, is that, that self-doubt. And I know we can get like really woo-woo with that. And, wow, like, what is self-doubt? Like, I really don't doubt myself, but we sometimes doubt our credentials and our qualifications to be a messenger. And so there's a lady I write about in the book, and I finished the manuscript over a year ago. If you know anything about working with a major publisher, everything takes longer, and it's so frustrating. Like, as an entrepreneur, I'm like one of those people who's like, let's write the book, print the book, ship the book, market the book, sell the book, and then, do that. And let's do that all in 4.5 weeks, and they're like, hey, how do you feel about January of next year? And I'm going, no, that's a year away. What is wrong with you people? But it's actually, as a side note, it's been a benefit because it's allowed us to move at a little bit slower pace. But I finished the manuscript over a year ago, so there's more to the story that I don't get to share in the book. And that foundational mindset is summed up in the story that I tell in the book. There's a lady that I talked to one day. She had interviewed for our mastermind, or she'd applied for our mastermind. And the final step, they cull through the applications. You make it to the final step. I do about a 15-minute call with the person just to make sure, like, they're not crazy. They can communicate on a telephone and sound, put together coherent sentences, and they're going to fit in the mastermind, because our mastermind is a reflection of me. We're lively, we debate, we help each other, and I don't want a really boring person on there. And I'm talking to this lady, and she's like, Matt, I'm sold. I want to be in the mastermind. My only concern is that I don't know that I can be successful at this. And I was like, why do you say that? And she's like, well, I want to be in the autism space. I want to help parents with autistic children. And I was like, that's awesome. What a cool mission. She said, yeah, I have 2 autistic children. I'm like, wow, that's pretty rare, isn't it? She's like, very rare. I was like, well, why don't you think you're qualified? She's like, well, I don't have the letters after my name, Matt. I didn't go to Harvard. I dropped out of community college. I don't know the studies. She's like, I only learned how to pronounce cerebellum last week. I don't know the medicines that work and the psychological study and the double blind this or that. She's like, man, I don't know all that stuff. I was like, but you're a parent of 2 autistic children, right? She's like, yeah. It's like, but I'm not qualified, Matt. And I was like, I don't know what made me ask this, Rob. I'll just be honest with you. Like, this is one of those questions that when it came out of my mouth, I went, oh crap. Did I really just ask that question? I said, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like killing your children? And she went, every day. And I don't mean she's like thinking up ways to drown her children. That's parents of just non-autistic children. Like, there are days where we just go, golly, why did I ever sign up for this? If you're being honest, you feel that way sometimes, right?
Sure.
She's got 2 autistic children. And she's like, every day, Matt. And I said, but you haven't. As a matter of fact, what you told me is you've raised 2 very successful autistic children, 13 and 10 years old, who are making it in the world. who aren't what we would consider to be the prototypical autistic child, despite having all the same challenges as the prototypical autistic child. Said, you told me that you travel. You also told me that a lot of autistic parents won't travel because they're scared. She's like, you're right. I said, so don't tell me you're not qualified. Like, you don't need letters behind your name. You have your experience, that experience of wanting to kill your children and not of raising these kids. And I said, just talk about that. So this is the part, that part's in the book. Fast forward about a year later, she emails me. She's got over 10,000 YouTube subscribers. She's doing it. She's building a successful business around this whole platform. All she's doing is talking about her experience. That doesn't matter what the science behind it is. Doesn't matter what the PhDs say and the doctors say and the MBAs or any of those other acronyms say. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. She has her experience, and she recorded a video a few months ago about traveling with autistic children. Thing that I didn't know is that that's a nightmare for a lot of parents with autistic children. They're scared because they're taking their child out of their routine. They're waking them up early or putting them to bed late. They're putting them on a metal tube and flying them at 38,000 feet. Try explaining that to any 5-year-old, let alone an autistic 5-year-old, how that works. And so they're afraid their kid's going to act up, and then people are going to look at them and judge them, and the flight attendants are going to ask them to please step off the plane. And all these things are going to happen. So that fear, that stress manifests itself and comes through in their energy. And now their kids feel it. So it just becomes a vicious cycle. She did a video about how she's done it. They've traveled all over the world to autistic children. And she had a comment on her blog that, said, you're not going to believe this, but I haven't left my hometown in 4 years because I've been afraid to go anywhere. Because of your video, I just booked a flight with my child to Hawaii. And so we can get past that feeling, that imposter syndrome. It opens up the doors like that. Everything hinges on that, Robert. All the marketing tactics and all that don't matter if you can't get through that basic there.
And that's amazing. And what you're reminding me of is, how like guys like you and me sometimes we'll do kind of like off to the side joint venture projects. And there was a time, maybe, 6 or 7 years ago when there's one guy in particular where we were kind of teaming up and creating some information products, and he kind of fell off and he ghosted me a little bit. And then years later we reconnected, and he said that he had this kind of self-doubt, this imposter syndrome. And he said, there's so many other competitors talking about this thing, and there's so many blogs, YouTube videos, books. What about little old me being an afterthought when everyone else has already blazed the trail? And I thought, and I wish you'd been honest with me and told me about this so I could kind of apply some of the Matt McWilliams persuasion and kind of talk you back from the edge. But that's really great that the antidote to that imposter syndrome, self-doubt that you're talking about is to have these desperate but also relatable problems that someone else has. Because if it's just your own problem, that's not really quite the amount of motivation. But if you're in the situation where you're saying there are other people who are like you or who are what you used to be like, and they're frustrated and they're hurt and their lives are not great, if only they had your message. And sure, there's all these other YouTubes out there, but if those were working, if they were actually solving their problem, then they wouldn't still be stuck. So they're stuck without this problem that you are, in your own unique way, qualified to solve, which does not have to mean the credentials. It's just your own unique perspective.
Exactly. And sometimes we do have the credentials. I share a lot of times, I've won Affiliate Manager of the Year 4 times in 17 years. That's a credential. But I didn't have it when I started. What did I have when I started? Nothing. I didn't even know what the heck I was doing, but I somehow managed to figure it out. And so, you go back to Alan Thomas, who I mentioned earlier, his qualification is that he went from 304 to 175 in 9 months. Does he understand the neuroscience and all the nutrition? Could he have possibly have lost a little bit more weight if he'd known more about exactly what foods to eat? I'm sure he could have. Could he have lost it? Sure. Could he have done it easier? Sure. He didn't need all that stuff though. So the thing that his audience sees when people come to him, and he charges, I'll just say, a lot of money, to coach people who need to lose weight. They come to him and go, Alan, I weigh 387 pounds. I'm coming to you because you know what it's like to be me. All the other coaches out there, they've all been fit for 30 years. They've been fit since they were 15 years old. They can't relate to me. And so it's a perceived disadvantage. You know, we look at these things, like we look at, how do we stand out? Your friend, little old me, right? Well, I don't know what his situation is, but maybe as the messenger, depends on the you know, who his audience is and what he's trying to do. But if we look for that way where we can stand out, maybe all the competition is male and you're female. Maybe all the competition is old and you're young. Maybe all the competition is buttoned up wearing a tie and you've got tattoos. I don't know what it is, but the reality is in almost every single niche, you know, there's room for more people that have a different style, a different look, a different, you know, hair color, a different skin color, a different gender, whatever the case may be. You know, if you think about like how people have stood out over time, a lot of times it was using those perceived disadvantages. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger comes to America and, you know, oh, he sounds like somebody from Austria because he's from Austria. But would anybody remember the line, "I'll be back," if it had been me or you?
Oh.
Or even if it had been Tom Cruise. If Tom Cruise had said it, would anybody remember? No. One of the best actors in the world. Nobody would remember that line. It's memorable because of the accent. And like he says, if it wasn't for his crazy accent, he'd still probably be in the Alps yodeling right now. You know, we remember Adrian. We remember Sylvester Stallone because he had paralysis, I think, on the left side of his face. If I remember correctly, they reached in with like forceps and screwed his face up. You know, what a cool story. You think, wow, that's really unfortunate. And you know what? All the kids probably made fun of him when he was younger. He probably was self-conscious about it. I believe in many ways, it's what made his acting career. You know, Joaquin Phoenix with the cleft lip, you know, it gives him a unique look. Owen Wilson, there's something like his nose. I don't know if Owen Wilson would be famous if he had a regular nose, you know? So all of these things, when you think about it, these are all like perceived disadvantages, but we can use them to stand out in the marketplace. You just have to think, okay, what is it about me? What is it about my style? What is it about my, you know, what, like if you got a Southern accent, here's some advice. You got a little bit of a Southern accent in the marketplace, turn it up a little bit. Just throw a little bit more redneck in there. And that's one way to stand out. You know, it works. It absolutely works.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the hero's journey, basically, right? Every superhero has the weakness, their kryptonite, and they take that disadvantage and turn it into an advantage. And with Arnold Schwarzenegger in particular, me personally, Matt, I have a theory that he puts that accent on because he's lived in America since the 70s. There's no way he's not purposefully doing that, which is fine.
I get it, yeah. 50
like
years.
It should have worn off by now, right? So,
yeah.
but he's applying exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
I have a theory about that too, that at some point he would have learned how to have said California and not call it California. But yeah.
but it sticks with you. And just like Harley Davidson could make quiet motorcycles if they wanted to, but that would be the worst possible decision for them to make, right? They've tapped into something. There is their uniqueness. Why not double down on it instead of trying to have this inner battle and fight what you actually are and what you should be? And so this is all great motivational, and like you have your kind of your media dialed in here, right? We kept it beginner friendly, but I'm hoping that in these last couple of minutes we can maybe get into like the slightly more advanced stuff, because like, you know, you come here and you have your kind of stock questions, right? You have the easy stuff that the publisher said that, you know, take it slow and sell the books. But I want to know, in these last couple of minutes, you're an affiliate guy and you said that you won these like 4 competitions in a row. And so what is your secret with the affiliate? Because some people say their secret as like an affiliate manager is to apply the whole recipe and do like the leaderboard and the contest. Some people say their secret is the database and the follow-up. But what would you say without letting anyone else steal your hot number one grand prize seat?
I'll share that all day long. Yeah.
Okay, then what's the secret?
Yeah. Just real quick though, I just came up with a great T-shirt from Harley Davidson. It's quiet motorcycles don't turn heads. You know, I mean, if you think about it, that's why we all know Harleys, because they're loud.
Tweet it to them, see if they respond, right?
Yeah, we got a T-shirt idea. $1 million, Harley. Come on.
License some of that. Split
it with it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, there's no one secret with growing an affiliate program. It is the combination of literally everything. So it starts, I mean, to start at the very basic, work our way up. It starts with building an army of smaller affiliates that you develop relationships with. Stop chasing the whale. Number one, they're probably not going to work with you. Number two, if something goes wrong, you're going to burn some big bridges versus some small bridges. And number three, they have 1,000 opportunities. So even if they do choose you and they say, I'm going to promote you once, the odds of you getting them to promote a second or third time in the next year, pretty slim. So what we do is we build an army of thousands and thousands of affiliates, loyal affiliates who promote us time after time, year after year, quarter after quarter, month after month. Sometimes they put us in their automation sequence, so it's going out constantly on an evergreen basis if we have that type of program. And we start there by building that army. Then we foster those relationships. So we treat those tiny affiliates that everybody else is like, why would I even work with you? You're going to make one sale. We treat them like gold, relationships, right? We do the things that people typically reserve for their bigger affiliates. We get on strategy calls with them. We train them. We help them. Suddenly they go from making one sale a year to 10 sales a year just from our help. Now, what happens when you add that to them 5 and 10xing their list? They're making 50 to 100 sales. What happens with those 10% that will hit it big over the next 3 years? Because 10% of the affiliates, they're going to have a massive growth in their business. They're going to grow by 30, 40, 50 times, but they're going to remember how you treated them. And so for us, that's been the key. That's what's worked for all of our clients. It's why we work with some of the biggest and the best. It's been that, treating them amazing, bringing them on, not going, well, they're too small to work with. It's not super profitable in the first 6 months, but I don't do anything thinking for 6 months. Like I'm trying to build a business for 10, 20, 30 years. So for me, that's been the big secret. And then of course, it's all those things that you mentioned. It's, the leaderboards. Yes. It's the competitions. It's the incentivizations. I'll give you one example that this has been a game changer for us over the past 7 or 8 years. I started doing this about 7, 8 years ago. So you got your public leaderboard and like, top affiliate gets this, top 10 gets this, all that. So we all know that stuff. I don't have to teach that stuff. It's pretty basic. But what about on an individual basis? Here we are. We're recording this toward the end of Q4 2022. I'm not sure when it'll air, but that's when we're recording it. About 8 weeks ago, I had all of our affiliate managers go look at their affiliate programs that they're running. And I said, here's what I want you to do. We do this every year. I want you to identify the affiliates that are down 10 to 40% year over year from January through September. So through the first 3 quarters of the year, we're looking for those people who are down 10 to 40%. So they're trending towards finishing the year down, say 25%. So let's say they did 100,000 last year. They're trending towards 75 this year. We reach out to them beginning of October and say, hey, Joe, last year you did $100,000 or you did $25,000 in sales from October through December. If you beat that by even $1, we're going to give you a $5,000 bonus. Now, the thing is, you have to remember, they're trending towards doing only 15,000 in December, October through December. And so we're only going to pay them if they actually do $10,000 more sales than what they were trending toward. Now, here's the thing. Very rarely does anybody land right on the number. They do one of two things 95% of the time. They either blow through it. We tell them to hit 25. They end up doing 32. So we actually got $17,000 in extra sales, or they fall short, but they do 22,000. We got an extra 7,000 in sales for no additional cost. I hope that made sense. You may have to go back and listen to that, but that's how we do it. And that's been one of the biggest ways that we've grown over the years, is identifying those people who are down and just getting them to get back up.
That's amazing. I mean, I've never heard of that technique before. And it's so cool because you're like applying maybe like the techniques that you would if you had like a call center or a sales team of like, 10 or 20, but you're applying that on maybe like more of like a mass scale of like hundreds or thousands of affiliates. And you and I both know, I mean, we've been at this for decades. You know that if you have an affiliate that makes like one sale, they're in like the top 5% of all your affiliates. You know what I mean? And there's the ones that make, what's that?
Not the programs we run.
Oh, but okay. Well, then the typical what the rest of us are used to, right? Yeah. It's like someone signs up. You're lucky if they log into the affiliate center. You're lucky if they grab some swipe copy. But then of course there's the nurturing and these things that you're talking about of like working your system and kind of pulling them through and helping out their business. and just having these combining the relationship building with the repetition and the hard work. And I can tell that you're, even just from all of our conversations, even before the show and during the show, you're all about having the relationships and like just putting in the time and making sure, almost like a teacher, right? Making sure like everyone is taken care of. And that's such a cool idea of like these affiliates individually bettering their best, because you hear about like, oh, well, make this number of sales and we'll give you like an iPad. But that's even cooler, like if you just better your best a little more than the last year. And that just like, it makes it so unique and so exciting and keeps those affiliates coming back, as you said, year after year. So that way you don't have to go and scramble or do the kind of like the techniques that sound good in theory but are sort of out of touch, like we were kind of talking a little bit about on the periphery. Like they say to go and look at the leaderboards of all the top other launches and talk to them. It's like they won't talk to you. You don't have that much to offer, and you're only looking at the tip of the iceberg of like building out all of the smaller affiliates, and that way the whole system works together. But so many people just look at one little piece and not of all kind of the legwork that you're talking about here. And so there is definitely not enough time in the day to talk about all these fun subjects. And that's why people need to look into the Affiliate Guy podcast and your book behind you, Turn Your Passions into Profits, and your website and all of that. So if someone was thoroughly impressed by all the tidbits you dropped today, man, I'm in that group. Right? I'm one of the ones that's impressed by all we talked about like 50 different subjects today. So if they're impressed and they want more of you, what's the next step? Where do they go? What do they do?
All right, I'm going to violate every rule of marketing. All right. First of all, I'm not going to answer your question because I got to say one thing on what you just said. When you go to leaderboards, here's where you look. You don't look at the top 10. You don't even look at the top 20. Look at the list of the people they put that says, and also making sales. Because those are the people who made 2, 3, 4 sales. Nobody reaches out to them. I'm just going to tell you guys, and that thing I just suggested with going in and looking at their quarterly stuff and I have shared that, Robert, with, I guarantee you more than 200,000 people have heard me say that between stages and podcasts and my own stuff, my courses, my podcasts and all that stuff, right? Interviews. Nobody does it. Like, this is the amazing thing. I'm telling you guys, it's made me millions of dollars and nobody does it. And it's mind blowing. Why? Because it takes 40 to 50 hours to actually execute that on an average sized affiliate program. It's not easy, but it is totally worth it. If I could think of anything else in my business where I go, I'm going to spend 40 hours and it's going to return $300,000. I would do that thing every week. You do the math. I'd be a billionaire in like 20 years, All right. So to answer your question, I'm also going to violate marketing rule number 2, which is don't give 2 calls to actions, because we talked about 2 very distinct things today. If you're interested in starting an affiliate program, you want to find kind of like, what are those first steps? Matt, I'm where you were 17 years ago, and I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do. Go to mattmcwilliams.com/first100, FIRST100. If you want to grab the book, we'd love that. It's going to help you guys on this path, the journey from, again, I've got this idea, I've got this passion, I want to turn it into a profitable business. Maybe you know somebody who could use it. You can grab it at any, if they sell books, Amazon, Target, Walmart, you name it. If they sell books, you can grab my book, but the best place to get it is passionsintoprofitsbook.com/plank, because we have a bunch of extra bonuses there for you guys that you can't get anywhere else. So make sure you go to that, passionsintoprofitsbook.com/plank. So you can get those bonuses, and it's just a better place to do it, because then I give you a bunch of stuff for free.
Well, fantastic. You have really put the affiliate mindset into everything you do, from having the custom page set up to having the cool offers to having all the extra goodies, and to kind of, you even like your appearance here, you kind of have your stock material plus the randomness on the fly. And I think we can all learn from what the heck you have going on. So it's time to go to those various web addresses that we mentioned. I don't want to repeat them because, with the podcasting, if you repeat what someone else said as a link, you always mess up the link. So just, passionsintoprofits.com.
Done that.
I think mattmcwilliams.com/first100. And the rest, I don't even want to try to remember all those exact ones. But as we wrap up and wind down our conversation here, Matt, we always want to be memorable, right? We always want to end on a high note. They say all's well that ends well. So what do you have as far as something to really close our conversation on a high point, something to really remember this conversation, or advice that you had gotten 10 years ago that you wish you'd had back then? What comes to mind as far as like something good and big just to close this down?
Oh man. I think, this is one of those weird ones. It has nothing to do with anything we've talked about. So we'll just add a third topic, basically. Here's the advice I wish I'd been given 12 years ago. When I left my first company that I started, and now I was back out on my own, and I was by myself. I was a prototypical solopreneur. And I thought every time something happened, the website doesn't work. What do I do? How do I fix it? Got to build a landing page. How do I build a landing page? How do we do this? How do we do this? How do I do that? I kept asking the wrong question. I kept asking how. And part of that is, I grew up with a single mom. Quite frankly, we were poor, so I grew up with that DIY mindset, but the answer was always how. And then finally, I realized about 10 years ago that I was asking the wrong question. I should be asking who. I saw a post randomly on Facebook one day where somebody posted and said, who do I know that blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what the question was, but who do I know that knows the answer to the question I have? Completely. It's amazing. A Facebook post changed my life, said no one ever except for me. It changed my life because I realized, oh my gosh, I know people. So with this book launch, I don't know anything about getting Amazon reviews. I've always been on the other side, right? Run the affiliate program, help them sell 30,000 books. Don't worry about if the book rates well on Amazon. I don't know any of that stuff. And I was like, well, how do I do that? And I went to Google and I typed in, and I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? So I went over to my text, I messaged and said, hey, Chandler, how do I get Amazon reviews? Picked up the phone, called me, gave me a 15-minute lesson. He's the expert on it. Over and done with. Now I know. So I would just say, stop asking how and start asking who, because you probably already know somebody who has the solution to your problem.
And you know what, that who, not how links back into your other subtopics of your branding, right? The point of an affiliate program is there's all these traffic sources, all these lists, but instead of trying to figure out all that, just figure out who. When the problem that stops people is how do I get my knowledge out there? Well, the question is not how, it's who is stuck, and then the how comes from the who, if that even makes sense. Yep. So amazing, mind-blowing. MattMcWilliams.com and Matt McWilliams on social media. Turn your passions into profits, and the Affiliate Guy podcast. Super great to meet and talk with you, Matt. I feel like this was like 5 episodes in one. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks, Robert.